We are accustomed to taking pride in the fact that we, humans, are the greatest builders on this planet. We carve tunnels through mountains, erect skyscrapers of glass and steel, and construct artificial islands. But the truth is, from orbit during the day, not a single one of our structures is practically visible. Our footprint on the body of the planet is far more modest than we like to think. Yet, there is a monumental structure on Earth that is truly visible even from space, and we didn't build it. Stretching along the coast of Australia is a living wall nearly 2,300 kilometers long. Its area is larger than the United Kingdom, Switzerland, and the Netherlands combined. This is the Great Barrier Reef. This megastructure was created by creatures that have no brain at all. Meet the coral polyp. The size of a grain of rice, with no eyes and no central nervous system, it is essentially just a tiny stomach. Yet trillions of these perpetually hungry mouths have created a home for a quarter of all known marine biodiversity, while occupying less than 1% of the ocean's surface area. When Charles Darwin sailed past here in 1836, he encountered a riddle that came to be known as Darwin's paradox. Perfectly clear tropical water is practically sterile. It contains almost no nutrients and virtually no plankton. The surrounding ocean is a barren desert. How then does the most densely populated ecosystem on the planet thrive here? The answer lies in absolute 100% waste-free production. The reef feeds itself. Microscopic algae, called zooxanthellae, live inside the polyp's tissues. They function as biological solar panels, giving up to 90% of their generated energy to the polyp in the form of sugar in exchange for shelter. It is these algae that paint the reef in its vibrant, psychedelic colors. Organic matter circulates in a continuous loop through the so-called sponge loop. Coral mucus is filtered by sponges, turned into protein, consumed by tiny crustaceans and fish, and eventually returned to the polyps. It is a perfect solar-powered perpetual motion machine. Every inhabitant of this metropolis performs a strict function. The parrotfish scrapes weed-like algae off dead rocks, clearing a foundation for new coral larvae. In a single year, one individual processes up to 300 kilograms of stone, creating the very white sand beaches we see in travel brochures. Life here is woven from fierce competition and astonishing cooperation. It spans from the painless yet deadly bite of the blue-ringed octopus and the ghost-like transparent irukandji and box jellyfish, to peaceful cleaning stations where 2-ton giant manta rays patiently hover, allowing tiny fish to pick parasites from their gills. The tiger shark sits at the apex of the Great Barrier Reef's food chain. By patrolling the seagrass beds, it prevents herbivorous sea turtles from overgrazing the meadows. This saves the ecosystem. The grass's root system binds the sand together. Without the sharks, silt would rise from the seabed, clouding the water, blocking sunlight, and causing the corals to starve to death. This balance has been refined over millions of years. The reef has survived ice ages, 120-meter drops in sea level, and prehistoric global warming events. It has dried out, turned into dead limestone, and rebuilt itself anew. It is a resilient, highly adaptable system. Or rather, it was, until a new factor entered the equation: humans. Under normal conditions, the crown-of-thorns starfish is an important component of the reef's balance. It consumes fast-growing species, freeing up space for new ones. Today, however, the world is witnessing catastrophic population explosions of these starfish. Tens of thousands of these spiked predators advance across the reef like an avalanche, turning blooming underwater gardens into a stark, dead desert. Why is this happening? The answer lies on human conscience. We are overfishing the humphead wrasse, a giant with powerful jaws that serves as the primary natural enemy of the crown of thorns. Driven by high culinary demand, the wrasse is vanishing. Yet this is just the tip of the iceberg. Chemical fertilizer runoff from agricultural fields is washed by rains into the ocean. The water becomes oversaturated with nitrogen and phosphorus, triggering explosive plankton blooms. And plankton happens to be the ideal food for crown of thorns larvae. Humans have simultaneously eradicated the predator and fed the prey. The result is an ecological disaster. In the pursuit of a quick catch, fishers in developing countries still use dynamite and cyanide. A single blast destroys coral structures that took centuries to grow. Cyanide paralyzes fish for the aquarium trade or restaurants, but kills all the surrounding polyps in the process. Heavy-bottomed trawls from industrial vessels scrape the ocean floor, quite literally erasing underwater cities from the face of the earth. A coral that built itself over 10,000 years is obliterated in a single second. Yet, the most devastating, global threat remains invisible to the naked eye. It is thermal shock. Driven by greenhouse gas emissions, humanity is heating up both the atmosphere and the world's oceans. For a coral polyp, a rise in water temperature of just 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above the summer average is a death sentence. Under heat stress, corals begin to behave strangely. The symbiotic zooxanthellae algae inside their tissues overheat and, instead of producing sugar, begin to release compounds toxic to the polyp. Faced with the choice of being poisoned or starving, the polyp takes a tragic step. It expels the algae from its body. This phenomenon is known as coral bleaching. The coral loses its color, exposing its stark white limestone skeleton. Stripped of their solar panels, the polyps are reduced to pale, starving stomachs. They are still alive, but they are completely exhausted. If cooler water does not return within a few weeks, the corals die of starvation. Over recent decades, the Great Barrier Reef has suffered multiple waves of mass bleaching. Billions of polyps have died. What has been continuously building since the last ice age is vanishing before the eyes of a single human generation. When a reef dies, the entire food chain collapses. The tiny crustaceans vanish, the small fish disappear, and the large predators, sharks and groupers, follow. Sea turtles lose their sanctuary, and dugongs lose their pastures, as ocean acidification caused by excess carbon dioxide destroys the seagrass meadows as well. The planet's greatest metropolis turns into decaying ruins. To many, it seems distant. What do we care about polyps at the bottom of the ocean? But coral reefs are the planet's natural buffer. They absorb up to 97% of wave energy, shielding coastlines from destructive tsunamis and severe storms. Without them, hundreds of millions of coastal residents will be left completely defenseless against the elements. Furthermore, reefs provide food and livelihoods for 500 million people on Earth through fishing and tourism. Their disappearance will trigger a humanitarian and economic crisis of unimaginable proportions. Finally, medical science is only beginning to study reef organisms. The cells of the epaulet shark help us understand how to protect the human brain during strokes, and toxins from coral organisms are forming the basis for groundbreaking cancer drugs. We are burning down a library before we have even read the first pages of its books. Coral reefs survived the dinosaurs and asteroid impacts, but they were not prepared for plastic, industrial runoff, and human-induced global warming. Scientists project that if we do not halt rising global temperatures and ocean pollution, up to 90% of all coral reefs on Earth could disappear forever by 2050. We began this film with the thought that humans are great builders, but our greatness should not be measured by how many skyscrapers of glass and steel we can erect. It should be measured by whether we can protect the living architecture of the planet, built long before we ever arrived. We still have a window of opportunity to change our trajectory, curb emissions, end destructive fishing practices, and give the ocean time to heal. Time is running out, and the choice is entirely ours.